his books. And at this moment, I want to introduce our speaker for this morning. Our speaker is an author, nationally syndicated radio host, and advocate for healing children with correctable disabilities through Cure International. He won multiple Personality of the Year awards for his work on his offbeat and quirky radio show, which airs on more than 200 stations. His podcast with his friend and radio producer, Sherry Lynn, the Brant and Sherry Oddcast, has been downloaded millions of times. He leverages his radio platform to advance the healing work of Cure, a global ministry of hospitals and programs that offer healing for children. His first book, Unoffendable, has promoted a national discussion on the idea of forgiveness and our culture's embrace of self-righteous anger. His second book, both provocative and very personal, is Blessed Are the Misfits, great news for those who are introverts, spiritual strugglers, or just feel like they're missing something. In this book, our special guest addresses his own and many others' inability to feel God's presence and how God might himself feel about that. Our special guest speaks to groups, conferences, churches when his schedule allows. He has written for CNN.com, The Washington Post, U.S. News and World Report, the South Florida Sentinel, Relevant, and numerous other outlets on matters as varied as public policy, culture, sports, Asperger's syndrome, and faith. He's been a game inventor, fronted a modern rock band, still dabbles in singing and songwriting. He's traveled extensively throughout the world for Cure and other groups, including multiple trips to Cure's Hospital for Women and Children in Afghanistan. He has been married for 27 years to Carolyn, and they have 2 grown children. Would you please join me in welcoming our special guest, Brant Hansen?
Thank you, guys. I really am honored to be here. That was an extremely impressive sounding bio. I wrote one on my website, like, here's the impressive one and here's the real one. Like, Brant actually doesn't know what he's doing. And that's true. I'm kind of fumbling through, but God takes weaknesses and makes cool things happen. And so I'm going to kind of fire through some stuff this morning because we don't have much time, but I got to tell you, I'm from Illinois. Anybody from Illinois here? Anybody? All right, thank you. Hey, all right. Everybody's from Illinois. Yeah, from Illinois, from small town there. I also, like she mentioned, I wrote about having Asperger's syndrome, which I do. I'm on the autism spectrum. I've come a long way with this. Like I used to be, like I didn't date anybody in high school or anything like that. Never would basically talk to girls or anything. I met my wife. Now that bio is a little old. It's 30 years now, but I met my wife and turned to her one day. We were friends in college. And so I didn't ever have a girlfriend before or anything. And I turned to her while we were studying, and this was just, we were pals. We were just hanging out. And I turned to her and I said, I love you. And her response was, thanks. And so, yeah, so first, last girlfriend. And what else should I tell you? Oh, so I'm on the radio, and I really appreciate not being seen. Like, so that radio is really awesome if you're an introvert. Like, this is okay, but I like it where I don't have to worry about my body language. Because that's one thing about Asperger's is you tend to not read body language, and then you have the wrong body language for what everybody else expects. So my wife actually helped me. I used to, like, this is how I naturally stand. I stand like this, with my weight evenly displaced over my feet so I can escape a social situation, like either direction. She's like, don't stand like that. I'm like, why? Why wouldn't I stand like this? She's like, you look like Data from Star Trek, Next Generation. I'm like, I know. That's a good thing. She said, no, that's not how you stand, because if you stand that way, it makes people nervous, what you have to do. And I'm like, okay. So this is the kind of stuff I have to do for normal people. But she said, what you got to do is you got to bend one knee a little bit like this, and then you put one hand like in your pocket like that. And then people are cool with you. I'm like, okay, so I'm doing this for you guys. I hope it puts you at ease, helps you to enjoy my thing. I want to talk about something. So I'm on the radio, and because I have Asperger's or whatever reason, I say stuff, and I'm blunt, and I don't understand that I'm being blunt. I don't understand why it's blunt. Like, I'm just being honest. And then people are like, I cannot believe that he just said that on Christian radio. I'm like, I'm being honest. Like, I thought we were good with honesty. The good thing is, like, on one hand, there's a lot of people that are really upset about it, at me. But there's a whole lot of people that are like, finally, you know, I want to hear somebody be honest about stuff. And that's one awesome thing about the show. Like she mentioned, we're on 200 and some stations now. Like we keep getting added because I think there's more and more people actually want blunt honesty. But one of the things that happens is people get really mad at me because A, they're really judgmental, and then B, I've said something in a blunt way. I'll read you, though. I brought this on my phone. This is the kind of letters I would get. See what you think of this. This is one of my favorite emails. Open up my email box. It's like just full. I'm like, oh, here we go. I have listened to your show many times, and all I can truthfully say is I know the devil smiles every time you pick up that mic. So, where should I start? I've heard you actually tell your listeners that tattoos are not an issue. You are a theological mess, and I could possibly get past the Stoner, Bert, and Ernie shtick if you. I'm like, Stoner, Bert, and Ernie shtick. That's an awesome idea for a show. Like, I didn't know that's what I was doing. Like, I'm doing Stoner. How do I do both Stoner Bert and Stoner Ernie? I'm just one guy. So, I don't even know. She said, I can get past your Stoner Bert and Ernie shtick if you ever had one intelligent or spiritual thing to say, but you don't. You come up with mindless, meaningless, worldly, spiritually bankrupt topics to discuss, and the other lukewarm, undecided followers out there eat it up. What a shame. You have such an opportunity to help change lives, and you use it just like an apostate. And it goes on from there. So my response was, so should I put you down for $40 a month to the station? Would you? Anyway, I had to figure out, like we all have to figure out, what do you do when you're constantly offended? Like, I'm dealing with their offense, but I'm reading all these emails, I'm getting calls. I don't like the way you, seriously, did this in South Florida. I gave the forecast. So, it's going to be 75 today, a little warmer than it should be for this time of year, a little up to 82 tomorrow, so on and so forth. I'm like, okay, get a call. I'm really disappointed with you. I know. Go ahead. Because that's what they always say. At Christian radio, like when I was doing talk radio, people are just mad. They're just cussing at you, but as Christian radio, they're disappointed with you. So I pick up the phone and I'm really disappointed with you. Why? Because of the weather forecast. The weather forecast? Yeah, you said it's going to be a little warmer than it should be for this time of year. Well, God ordains the weather. It's going to be exactly what it should be. I'm like, okay. Constant disappointment. But anyway, so my heart gets to the point where, like, I cannot believe these people. I am so sick and tired of this. Like, I'm mad all the time because I'm opening up one email, I'm getting one call after another, people disappointed with me or what I said, or it's one argument after another. Like, hey, so I was wondering, hey, how long am I supposed to be angry with somebody? I mean, they're out of line. How long should I be angry? And I was looking in the Bible for that because, you grow up and you hear there's righteous anger and there's unrighteous anger. Well, there's unrighteous anger. You need to get rid of that. You need to get rid of that. But you hold on to the righteous anger. Like it's righteous. This is good anger. Supposed to be angry about this. I am angry. Yeah. So I was looking in the Bible, like, so how long do I hold on to the righteous anger? Is that just something that goes on forever? And you know what I can't find? Righteous anger in the Bible. I'd heard this my entire life, that there was such a thing as righteous anger for humans. Guys, it's not in the Bible. There's no such thing as righteous anger in the Bible. This is shocking to me, but I can't find it. And what's interesting, by the way, I wrote this book. Can you put I have the little clicker thing, don't I? How would I lose something just from there to here? This must be it. Okay, so that's the book I wrote a few years ago, and it's called Unoffendable, and it's about the myth of righteous anger. It's about actually forgiving people, no matter what. And so it's about how I can't hold on to anger. Being angry is not a good idea. I'll explain that to you in a second, because most people totally disagree with my thesis on this book. I mean, there's faculty in here right now going, this is not true. Give me a chance, because just give you it's weird because once you have an idea in your head about how life works, if somebody comes along with another idea, it's like, ooh. But anyway, I wrote this book called Unoffendable, and then look at this. Some guy wrote another book like 2 years after my book, and he called it Unoffendable. And I was getting on Twitter. He's a pastor in Dallas. I was getting on Twitter like, you better, how could, and I'm like, I can't do that. Dang it. I can't get angry about the guy ripping off my book. Now there's yet another book called Unoffendable. Anyway, I also drew this. This is a flow chart that I made for you guys, and it's about, again, don't kill me until I get to explain my thesis here. But I made this flow chart about how people adapt to new ideas. So, yeah, how it works. Yeah, I did the graphics myself, so I have a gift in the graphical designing arts. Yeah, so give me a chance on this, all right? So whenever I talk about this issue, people are like, and I guarantee there's faculty sitting here and students sitting here going, Brant, you're wrong. The Bible does say anger's good, because it says in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 26, it says, in your anger, do not sin. That means anger's good. Like, really? Okay, so let's look at that scripture, because this is the only scripture that people bring up, by the way. That's the one go-to. They have one other, which is Jesus cleared the temple. I'll talk about that here in a second. But here we go. When you're angry, do not sin, it says. See, it's not a sin to get angry. It's not a sin to be angry. Sometimes anger is good. Hold on to it. We ought to be angry. We really should. See, that just shows you. Well, it's interesting. There's a comma at the end of this. What's after the comma? Nobody knows. We only memorize half of this verse. What's after the comma? Why do we only memorize half of the verse? Remember, we like to justify what we already like, and boy, we'd like being angry. We'd love it. We think our anger is always righteous because it's me. What's after the comma? I'll show you. Here's the whole verse. When you are angry, do not sin, and be sure to stop being angry by the end of the day. That's the verse that we use to proof text and say, see, my anger's good. I need to hold on to it. He's saying very clearly, you will get angry. It happens, okay? So anger happens. There's a flash of anger whenever you feel threatened, whenever your will is being thwarted. That happens. Now, it should happen less and less over time because as a believer, you realize there's not much to threaten me, right? I already gave my life to Christ. You can take my shirt. You can take my hat, whatever. Like, I gave my life to God. So there's less to be threatened, and you grow into that. So you don't get angry as much, but you will get angry. But he's saying, get rid of it now. And in fact, here's something that's really interesting. I like Eugene Peterson in the Message version, but watch what he does with this verse. Now look at this verse. Okay, when you are angry, do not sin, and be sure to stop being angry by the end of the day. Okay, so look what Eugene Peterson does with this, and this is exactly what I'm talking about. And I love Eugene Peterson, but here's his version. Go ahead and be angry. You do well to be angry, but don't use your anger as fuel for revenge. That's not what it says at all. Dude missed it by a mile. But that's what we all do with verses we don't get or we don't like. Like, surely my righteous anger is okay, right? Your anger is not righteous. That's what the Bible says. In fact, 5 verses later, the same section, do not be bitter or angry or mad. It's in the same paragraph. And we use that to justify our anger. That's all we have scripturally. Here's the thing. In the Bible, God's anger is righteous. Ours isn't. Because we're sinners. He's not. See, the problem is my anger against you, no matter what you've done, my anger against you ultimately becomes hypocrisy because I'm just as guilty. Jesus tells a story to try to drive the point home, and we still miss it. It's about the unmerciful servant. So there's a king, and there's a guy who owes him a lot, and the king forgives him, but that guy won't turn around and forgive somebody else. And this guy in the middle who won't forgive gets judged as a result of it. He was forgiven, now he's going to get judged because he didn't forgive. Well, guys, that's us. That's why we forgive people. We don't forgive people because they deserve it. Well, they don't deserve it. He hasn't apologized yet. They haven't apologized for that. They haven't ever come to me and said doesn't matter. You don't forgive people because they deserve it. You forgive people because you didn't deserve it. And God forgave you anyway. Do you understand what I'm saying? And here's the thing with anger. Well, I can still be angry. I forgave you, but I'm still angry with you. That makes no sense. Anger is, You guys see the Mr. Rogers movie, by the way? Woo! Mr. Rogers! Yeah, it was really good. I thought it was good. And at the beginning, though, he nails it. Like at the very beginning of the movie, he's talking about forgiveness. He says, forgiveness is when you give up your anger feelings against somebody. You can't say you've forgiven somebody and still decide, but I'm holding on to my anger because I deserve it. Plus, they don't deserve forgiveness from me. Really? And Jesus says if you don't forgive, you won't be forgiven. This is what it means to be a follower of Christ, you guys. This is what it means to be a disciple. It's practicing his way of forgiveness every day because we know people are broken. We shouldn't be shocked. That's the thing, too. Like for the people that are just constantly shocked. Oh, one more verse. Are you telling me, Brant, because I get this, are you saying that there's nothing about human righteousness or human righteous anger that brings about the righteousness of God? Are you telling me there's nothing about my anger that brings about God's righteousness on the earth? What? I'm not. But James 1:20, which no one memorizes, says the anger of God does not produce the anger of man does not produce the righteousness of God. So I get a kick out of that, like our ability to rationalize our anger. Here's the thing. We're constantly shocked by human behavior, constantly. Observe this on Twitter. Observe it on Facebook. Watch this. People are shocked, outraged every single day. They have it was slate.com, interactive calendar on Slate. You can pick any day of last year and find out what everybody was outraged about that day on Twitter. It's interactive. I was outraged about this, and then on the 15th, I had this, and the 16th, that, and the 17th. So because we think it's righteous to be angry, we think, I'm doing a good job. I'm getting ticked on Twitter. I'm tweeting. I'm doing a good job. You know, they actually done a study about that and found that the people who advocate the loudest for their cause on Twitter or about an issue are less likely to actually take action. See, that's the problem when people go, oh, I'm supposed to take action. No, I'm supposed to take a stand against injustice. No, you're supposed to take action against injustice. Patting yourself on the back for being angry is self-defeating. This is why Martin Luther King Jr. agreed with my thesis, well, he didn't know my thesis, but I mean, it dates well back before I did. Dietrich Bonhoeffer, another guy. They believe that Jesus didn't make this distinction between righteous and unrighteous anger. Like, I have to take action and forgive people even as they're doing it. But I take action. But I actually do the thing. Well, I won't do anything unless I'm angry. Well, that's a problem. Anger doesn't enhance your judgment. It hurts it. You don't think more clearly. Guys, if you need anger to work for justice in life, that's not good. We ask, who are the people in our culture tasked with administering justice? Do we want them angry? I've seen when that happens. It's tragic and horrible. No. We don't want police angry. We don't want judges angry. We don't want our military angry. In fact, you're taught not to be, but you still do the right thing to protect the vulnerable and the weak and the defenseless. You do something. But we've gotten so into our anger being righteous that we think we've done something if we tweeted about it. Here's the other thing. It's time not to be shocked by human behavior. You remember reading in the Bible, Adam and Eve, they have 2 kids. One kills the other one, right off the bat. Humans have a problem. It's time we admit it. We have a serious problem. The guy who wrote Westworld said, I don't know, there's like a flaw in our code or something. We just never can seem to get it together. I'm like, yes. I don't know if flaw in the code's the right way to put it, but there's something deeply wrong with us. And yet we're still shocked. I was driving to Indianapolis and somebody cut me off. I could not believe it. Really? You ever driven before? Humans are out here. Humans are in here. Humans. The guy who does that thing in your class, he's going to do that thing again. Don't be shocked. Can't believe what my mom said. How long has your mom been saying stuff like that? 37 years. Okay, well, believe it. It's time to believe. Maybe not be shocked. Maybe go into the day, when you start the day, understanding I'm going to have some forgiving to do today, and I'm not going to be offended by it. I don't have to be. I know people are broken. There's actual scriptures where Jesus is talking about, no, he's not talking. It actually said He knew. He was with the Pharisees one time. He was with the disciples another time, and it said, but Jesus knew what they were thinking. No one had to tell Jesus what men were like. Well, we're believers in Jesus. Like, we understand sin, right? I mean, that's the idea. The world's broken, and it runs through all of us, this brokenness. Why would we be shocked by it? I can't believe these people did that. Really? Time to be done with the shock. Here's another problem with anger. Another problem. I don't know if you guys have ever seen this thing. Man, I got to hurry. Doggone. You guys are going to run off to class, aren't you? And leave me here. Something that's really important. There's a guy who's a primate neuroendocrinologist at Stanford named Robert Sapolsky, but he wrote a book called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. And this is brilliant. His thesis is this. You never notice no other animals. There are no animals that get ulcers. Only humans get them. We are the ones who do it. And I listened to his entire course that he teaches at Stanford. This guy's a militant atheist. And he said, the problem is humans get worked up over stuff. See, you have all of these physiological changes that happen in your body when you're threatened. That's the anger feeling. If you feel hot, you get angry, your heart starts beating a little faster. There's all these different things that happen. Adrenaline may rush in. Cortisol level spikes. There's insulin changes in your body. There's all these things that happen, just one after a cascade of physiological changes right there in the moment. That's there for fight or flight. That's for you in a threatening situation to be able to respond and survive. That's why animals have the same thing. So zebras, yes, they get that sensation too. When a lion starts chasing them, and it lasts for 30 seconds, one way or the other, it's over in 30 seconds. It doesn't matter anymore. Either get away or you don't. But that's what that system is there for in your body. It's not to stay in your body. But he was saying humans are the only creatures on the planet that can borrow threats that don't even really exist. Or things from tomorrow that haven't happened yet that you're like, well, it could happen. The way she looked at me, I don't know. I think she thinks that the way this could happen. And I don't. We're the only we're the only creatures on the planet that can do that. So we get ulcers, and we get heart disease, and we get all these we get weight gain from anger, harboring anger and worry and resentment. This guy's a militant atheist. The conclusion of his course, I remember this. He said, so here's what I would tell you, students. Don't borrow trouble from tomorrow. The animals don't do that. Look at the animals. They don't do that. There's nothing about tomorrow that's going to help you today. Today's got enough problems of its own. And I'm like, I have heard this before. It's true. That's another reason not to buy into this righteous anger idea, because it'll kill you. It'll shorten your life. Jesus said as much. And here's the actual scripture. I showed you the scripture, like, get rid of it today. God is so tender he wants us to thrive and flourish. He's telling us to get rid of it so that we can flourish. He knows the physical effects of holding on to anger. You forgive people because it's good for you. God told you to do it, and because he forgave you as well. Here's another thing in the 3 minutes I have left. A couple things to think about. Number one, it is true in all of your conflicts, you always think you're right. Of course your anger is righteous. But here's the problem. There's a proverb about this, and I learned about this proverb, strangely enough. I watched The People's Court when I was a kid. It's one of these court shows, and they would have the plaintiff come in, and they would explain the plaintiff's case and then the defendant. So I remember watching and always thinking, the plaintiff's going to win, because they would give their case first. This case seriously happened. I remember this guy walked in with his family. It was like 7 people, big family. He's walking in, he opens the little half door there, and they're like, well, the plaintiff, and he's approaching the judge, the plaintiff and his family were all sickened at the defendant's pizza restaurant. And the pizza made them sick, and they were violently ill for 24 hours, and they're all suing for $1,500 for damages. I'm like, well, that's a closed case. I mean, if all 7 of them got sick, and they went to, like, hello, why are we even here? The defendant comes in, and the defendant says he doesn't even own a pizza restaurant. And like, whoa. So, but But every case was like, there's actually a proverb, you guys. The proverb says, the first to testify always seems right. Well, guess who that is in your head? It's you. Of course you're righteous. All your anger is righteous, right? But you don't know anything about anybody else's angle. You don't know all the dynamics of it. We're charged with actually forgiving people, actually letting things go. It's better for us. We live longer. There's this thing, I love that your college is named Grace. I keep looking at this thing. I'm sorry if that's distracting, but I realize I have 67 seconds. I love the idea of grace because you realize how much you forgive and you can extend it to somebody else. There's a chapter break. You know how they put chapters in the Bible? That wasn't original. Like when Jesus was talking, it wasn't like, so that all could have eternal life. 17. I have come into the world so that he didn't say 17. We put all that stuff in. It was like centuries later, but sometimes in the stupidest places, honestly. Like, it's not in the original Bible, so I can say that. Stupid places. Like there's a chapter break in John, and maybe you've heard Jesus say, let not your heart be troubled. You're familiar with that? Let not your heart be troubled. Jesus said that. There's this other part of John, there's other story where Peter is in the Last Supper with Jesus, and he's going, I'll follow you anywhere, wherever you're going. No, you won't. Yes, I will. No, you won't. Yes, I will. He's like, before the night's over, you're going to betray me 3 times. And then there's a big 14. But don't let your heart be troubled, because I'm going away to prepare a place for you. In my Father's house, there's many rooms. So he's telling the guy who hasn't even betrayed him yet, I'm forgiving you. It starts with, he's talking to Peter. But we broke up those thoughts. I need you to understand something. If you're addicted to stuff or you're messed up, like most of us are in different ways, like, do you understand that this is the forgiveness that God's offering? And when you do breathe that in, maybe you haven't, but when you do breathe that in, try extending it to other people in a radical way. Like, I know the world's broken. I know Jesus is on the cross going, forgive them, they don't know what they're doing. Try it. Extend it to other people now. It will free you in huge ways. And people will actually want to be around you. If they will, they'll be drawn. I can't believe it. I'm like a Pharisee by nature, and since I've been doing this, like, people want to be around me. They're comfortable. They can tell, that guy's not going to be offended by anything. I can bounce anything off him. He's like, I don't control people. I know I'm out of time. I'm sorry. I've gone 30 seconds over. Tonight, though, I would love to, if you guys want to make it tonight, if you're somebody who doesn't feel God's presence, I really struggle with that. I generally don't. And I want to talk about that tonight a little bit. It's in my other book, but I think I have some good news for us, because a lot of us aren't feelings people. So if that's you, if you're a little more analytical or you have a hard time when other people are really emotional, and you're like, I want to talk about that tonight, among other things. We can talk about this stuff too. Much more to say. Thank you so much. I don't know what happens next, but God bless you. Thanks.